number 5. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and tonight is Sunday night's 5th. I did make a mistake in early videos. I forgot to count Wednesday as show 1. Because it was originally supposed to be a Tuesday show. And I wasn't going to count it. But I went ahead and counted it as 1 since it was done on a Wednesday. So that was Halloween show number 1. This makes number 5, which means I'll have 9 altogether. Still have Monday night, which is the day before Halloween. I'm not sure what I'll do. I put something together tomorrow for tomorrow night's show, special show. I have one planned for tonight. And of course, Halloween, I'm just going to let it fly. I'm going to invite other guests on, see if people want to appear for a few minutes, maybe in costume, maybe not. Hopefully, I'll have enough upload speed to actually have my camera on so I can appear at least partially in costume. And we'll play some spooky music. We'll discuss costumes. We'll discuss Halloween, maybe show some videos. And probably do, since it is Tuesday, the day for the live Spirit Box session after Spirit Box 7 and the Echo Box session. So I'll probably definitely be doing that. So I don't know how long I'll be on there. Last year I did a 13-hour. I am outside. It's too much effort, too much work. And currently I can't get a hard head start because it's dripping rain out there. Just a kind of an ugly, slow rain. We need some rain here. We haven't had rain here in about 3 weeks. We have actually got a burn ban here, which is aggravating me because on November 1st, of course, All Saints Day, you end All Saints Day by having a bonfire tonight. Unless we get some heavier rain in this county, North Arkansas has got some places up to 6 inches. Little Rock's getting about 4. We have got nothing here. The county as a whole is probably measured in the hundredths of an inch. There's some mist with all this rain going through North Arkansas. So the burn ban will still be in effect Tuesday night. So I will not be able to have an outside bonfire unless we have a shower between now and the next 12 hours. But 10 or 11 o'clock, the rain is going to be completely gone out of the state. And if we don't get any more, what the little not quite rain, not quite mist that we're having right now, unless we have 10 or 12 hours of it, is not going to shut down the burn ban. So no bonfire, but I'll put some photos of a bonfire or something up. I don't know. Maybe light a candle will be all I can do because outside just cannot burn anything unless we have a rain. Anyway, tonight we are going to be discussing the old, and this now is closed, the Mussie Conte Wax Museum in the French Quarter in Arkansas, which I was the last paranormal investigator to investigate there. This is several years ago. Condos, high-end condos. Don't even go down there looking. These are people in a known haunted location where several deaths have occurred in homes that used to be built there. Of course, the fires occurred there. Fires in all the old towns occurred and wiped out whole towns. Some of them, the major cities were rebuilt, like Chicago and New Orleans, several times. But this location was burned a couple of times. There has been some known deaths at the location, and then they put a brewery on top of it, and then a wax museum took over the building that the brewery was in. The brewery closed. The next day I'd investigated on a Friday. They were open on a Saturday for the last people who want to go on the last day. And then they had a private party Saturday night. And I was in there with a group for about 4 hours and then was locked in the wax museum by myself, lights off, for 2.5 hours. Now, I've talked to several other paranormal investigators, and they say, oh, hell no. Very few people like to be locked in a known haunted location by themselves with lights off. Employees would not walk through the museum with the lights off. They had the lights on and still walking through with a flashlight. They did have some spaces where they had the old Universal monsters in wax up there: Dracula, the Wolfman, Frankenstein, that crowd. The rest of it was mostly about historical New Orleans and things that happened there. So what I'm going to do is read you two different write-ups of the museum. The websites are listed below for the two of those two. You see the two HTTP website addresses here. So you can check out this and see what the place was, or at least. Now, I will tell you this. Somebody in New Orleans bought up about a quarter, maybe a third at most, of the figurines, probably the historical ones, because there was not much market for that out of New Orleans, and are putting them up either now they're opening up, or at least within the next few months opening up, so for the public, so they can review. And I imagine it's most likely the ones they did not sell other wax museums that did show the history of New Orleans, because there's, like I said, there's just no interest in that for another wax museum outside New Orleans. So hopefully we'll see in the next few months where that will be, how much they charge to go through, and of course an address there in New Orleans. Hopefully they'll get that started since they've got their figurines, and pretty soon. If I find out, I will announce it on my regular show on Thursdays, the Southern Fried Paranormal. So let's get right to the reading. Let me drink a little water. Gurgle, gurgle. And we shall go to the wax. Anybody seen the wax museum? Knows the organ has not wrong. Generic organ music that's owned by Felicity. And I did give them the donation, which allows me to play the music here in the graveyard. Directory, please do not use this music at all, as you don't have permission to use it like I have, because I donated. Go to FelicityStudios.com, give them a donation, and you too can use some of his non-copyright music that I am using copyright free. I would recommend giving a donation and downloading it. Rewind, rewind, as you used to say it, Blockbuster. All right, let me go in there and get another drink of water, and we are leading to our show. Now, some of this will be repeated as I am covering two sites. I'll cover the short one first. I did forget something completely. Since this is I'm not used to the shows that I run normally on Facebook and YouTube. I'm not used to running on WLFEDB. But the Halloween special shows are being aired by WLFEDB. So anybody watching this as in delay on WLFEDB.com or on the Facebook page, WLFEDB Radio Facebook page, and you're watching this either live, somebody's watching, or later on, welcome to the show. I hope you enjoy it. But now I got to throw the logo up of the network I actually broadcast on with Southern Fried Paranormal, because this is a big broadcast too. All right, we got that out of the way. And let's go on to the readings. Okay. This I saw in the dark. Oh, you know, I'll do it between the readings, show you the photos. If you ever wake up in a wax museum next to a cyclops in a cage, Napoleon in a bathtub, Napoleon in a bathtub. They actually had a full-size wax figure of Napoleon in a bathtub. I got a picture of this full spectrum. You will see a little bit later when I run this series of photos. But here's a lights on version of that figure. I don't know if they bought this or somebody else bought this and put it in their house, but this was used to be in the old museum. Napoleon in a bathtub. The artist thought it was amusing, put it together as a joke, and they ended up keeping it in the museum. Napoleon in the bathtub, folks. What says Halloween more than Napoleon in a bathtub? And two prostitutes catfighting in the street. You may be in deep trouble, but you're not lost. This is a Muskie Conti, French for Museum on Conti Street. Let's see, that's kind of what most museums are, especially my wife. She loves museums. Must see Conti. Museum on Conti Street. A wax museum like no other because it's devoted almost exclusively to one subject, New Orleans. It began in the early 1960s when local hotel owner Benjamin Well and theater owner Isidore Lasaris toured Madame Tussauds in London. Of course, all those people used to go through Madame Tussauds. They decided New Orleans needed a similar wax museum to tell its story. They hired a mannequin manufacturer in Paris, spent 3 years in the equivalent of over $5 million in today's dollars, and opened Musée Conti in 1964. Publicly at the time touted the no expenses spared nature of the museum. The wax dummies reportedly flew to New Orleans on Pan Am, some in passenger seats. Can you imagine being on that plane? It was said that all of the mannequins were given real beards, inserted hair by hair, then clean shaven mostly to give them realistic 5 o'clock shadows. Musée Conti today is almost exactly as it was when it opened over 50 years ago. Of course, that's not today because it's been closed for 6.5 years, almost 7 years. It's opposite of most modern wax museums, which constantly add new celebrities in the belief that new celebrities are what people want to see. Musée Conti believed, ED there, otherwise. Nearly all of the 147 people enshrined in it are dead. The museum focuses on real New Orleans history, not fiction. There are no tributes to Interview with the Vampire, A Confederacy of Dunces, or even a streetcar named, actual pronunciation is Desiree, but a streetcar named Desire was more marketable to the American public, even though the correct pronunciation is A Streetcar Named Desiree, which is a proper lady's name. Instead, the 22,000 square foot, like I said, it used to be a brewery, features Laura Tabot tables of whores and gamblers, jazz, and voodoo. Many of the places depicted in the museum are just outside its front door. The death dueling alley, the voodoo queen's home, the slave market and torture house, the casket girls convent, the prostitutes battleground, the sites of the 1768 massacre of Frenchmen and the 1891 massacre of Italians. The museum points this out at every opportunity. Here we go. Napoleon and his bathtub has always been a highlight, capturing the moment when the enraged Frenchman defied his brothers by selling Louisiana to the Americans. An exhibit sign asserts that Napoleon, in fact, stood up and threw water on his siblings. The museum did not show this, the sign explains, because the dummy brothers' costumes were too expensive to damage. For obvious reasons, reads the sign, Napoleon remains seated, a modesty sponge covering up his private parts. And you see the sponge right there. This was one of the most popular things, and it's just humorous looking at it. That people would actually pay to go into a museum and see this wax figure. Napoleon in the bathtub, folks. There you have it. I have no idea where this is or whether the New Orleans people with the upcoming museum bought this particular piece or not. I don't know. I wish I'd had the money. I'd have bought it myself and put it in my living room. Although probably I don't have company anyway, so it's not like I'd run anybody off. All right, let's go back to what we were talking about here. In the cat fight diorama, two fallen ladies of Storyville, a notorious district only a couple of blocks from the museum, teared each other's clothes and hair for no apparent reason, just suggesting that similar battles happen so often it wasn't worth explaining. Whiskey, women, and frequently even life were cheap, reads an accompanying sign. A third hooker embraces a man while simultaneously stealing his wallet. Sometimes it's more than the set price and your virginity that get lost in a whorehouse in New Orleans, at least in the old days. Historical obscurities are Muskie County's specialty. One diorama explains how the gambling game of craps was born in New Orleans. Another gives an unflattering portrait of Benjamin Spoon's butler, rascally Union Army boss of the city. He got his nickname, quote, because he liberated so much of their silverware. The forgotten Italian massacre of 1891 was one of the largest mass lynchings in American history and almost resulted in declarations of war between the United States and the government of Italy. The beautiful Madame Delphine Laure gave dinner parties that were the toast of society until it was discovered she was simultaneously torturing enslaved people in her attic, apparently for fun. Lorraine Mansion, that is who that is there, and it was here in the Wax Museum. Be interested to see if the rich people who own the home of the Lorraine Mansion bought this particular piece, or if New Orleans still has it, or somebody else got it for people to look at wherever they are. Adding to the strangeness of Musée Conte is a haunted dungeon, an apex that has nothing to do with New Orleans, but much to do with the copying Madame Tussauds' successful formula. Here, the museum again goes old school by favoring 19th century Gothic horror. The body snatcher, the murders in the Rue Morgue, the corpse in the waxworks. His last tableau shows two Muscovy County employees dipping the body of a dead young woman into a barrel of liquid beeswax shipped from the museum's dummy maker in Paris. And you wonder why I was investigating there. And the cave Cyclops. It's in the final exhibit, explained as an example of the New Orleans custom of lime sheep hill, ape. A longe ape, a little something extra, bestowed among customers in appreciation for their trade. That to admit this gigantic, one-eyed, man-eating Cyclops is something extra. And you'll see that in just a minute. When Katrina slammed in New Orleans in 2005, the owners locked Musée Conte and fled. Trapped in a windowless building for 3 weeks of 100-degree heat with no air conditioning, the dummies were not expected to survive. But when the owners returned, they found not pools of beeswax, but all the dummies intact and standing, although somewhat, quote, sweaty. They'd been left as they were, some with noses slightly diminished, some with faces slightly streaked, some with visible wax stains on their clothes. Just another example of New Orleans history preserved for the public by Musée Conte, and reassuring proof that despite their lifelike quantities, None of the dummies are dipped in wax. Okay, that is our first reading. That came from RoadsideAmerica.com and the Muskie Conte Wax Museum in New Orleans, now closed. All right. What I'm going to do is go in here and show you the photos. We'll hit once again. Napoleon in a bathtub. Ah! We're going to go a short video real quick, just a minute, 3 seconds long. So it shows some. I believe we start with the fight, where I've mentioned the boxer was in a interesting position. He's there studying on his hands and knees, studying the sand that covered the ring he was fighting in. Probably because he just all but got knocked out here. Okay, here we go with our little show. Cyclops. Battle of New Orleans. Beheading, I believe. More Battle of New Orleans. This is a different view. Napoleon in the bathtub. I believe that was paid a foot signing a contract. This is a play. Front sign. This is from the slave area. Here's the boxer. Here are the whores fighting. Another view. Napoleon bathtub. This is also from the Battle of New Orleans display, and another one from the slave district, and another one of horse fighting. This is the employees dipping a wax figure. This is one of their brochures. So there's the upper story. That last picture, they rented that out for weddings. It was one of the more popular places in New Orleans to get married. That was up part of a brewery, and you see why people got married there. It was absolutely beautiful. Anybody could rent it out. But that complete building is gone. All they kept was a facade. And now there's condos there. Some of the condos are 700,000 plus. Just very top end condos. Now just use the facade of the building, the old wax museum. All right, now we'll go to our next little reading. Okay, this is the good stuff. Oh, wait a minute. I was going to do the other one. I did both of these, did I? Or did I not? No, I did not. I did not do the long one. This is 230. Some of the pictures. Discovery, signing the sale. The wax figures were very high quality. Again, Napoleon in the bathtub. This is another view of the boxer. The prostitute's wedding. One of the explorers of the era. These are taken with a full spectrum camera with only red lighting. This is what I saw when I investigated there. And as you see, the photos there's Napoleon bathtub, even that scary in view with a full spectrum camera using only infrared and red lighting. This is very, very nerve wracking. hanging right here with just nothing but a red light that I could see. And the viewfinder of the camera that picked up what little bit of infrared light was available from just the camera. Battle of New Orleans, more Battle of New Orleans, more Battle of New Orleans. It's pretty good size exhibit there with the Battle of New Orleans. I really hope this was picked up by the New Wax Museum that will be there in New Orleans, because this is a rather large little exhibit. Of course, it was a pretty good sized battle. It took up a lot of space just outside of New Orleans. And that's one place that's on my bucket list to investigate is the Battle of New Orleans battlefield. Okay, get a little drink of water here. First, the Ghost of New Orleans Haunted Wax Museum. Perhaps more than any other city, New Orleans has more local museums than tourists or natives even know about. Places like the Pharmacy Museum, a fantastic place. I've got some photos of that somewhere that I took inside, and I plan on investigating at least outside of there. It's expensive to rent the place for a paranormal investigation. They rarely do it, but the hotel next door, if you get a room and you can go out and sit by the pool in the square, not make a noise to keep people awake at night, the wall in the back of the hotel, they got a little pool there, seating area, is also the outside wall of the Pharmacy Museum. You don't have to be in a paranormal place to investigate. Just got to be close to it. The 1850 house, interesting place, or the House of Dancing Feathers. Although stores were closed forever, January 2016, that's when I was there, it remains one of the New Orleans' most treasured family attractions. Unlike Wax Museum and those of Madame Tussauds Celebrity Haven, Muskie Conti ventured out a different path. From a naked friendship for Napoleon to the prostitutes tearing each other's hair in the red light district, Storyville. The Muskie Conti has never taken the well-trodden path. The Mystery Museum, located at 915 through 923 Conti Street in the French Quarter, has experienced some strange things in its day. And as one could only imagine, the property's rather diverse history no doubt has a hand of sparking all the paranormal activity occurring within the Muskie Conti. Wax figures and ghosts. Could there ever have been a better pairing than this? People ask me, what was one of your more haunted locations? What was more fun? What was scarier? Try being locked in a wax museum for 2.5 hours all by yourself. Try it sometime. And you got a spirit box or an echo box going the entire time, and you can hear ghost voices in the whole time. Sometimes telling you where you're going. Why are you going down there? That was definitely nerve wracking, but definitely fun. I'm not sure I'd do it again, but I can't do it again. I was probably the only paranormal investigator ever locked in that place by himself. That's kind of unique with me. When I'm gone, most of the history of this place will be the preview of what I've posted on the internet until they fade away. The lot where it sat was not settled in 1777 during the midst of the Spanish colonial period. For those of you who need a history lesson, the Spanish held this area before the French did. In fact, the French Quarter actually burned down in a fire a couple of centuries ago. What we call the French Quarter now was actually the Spanish Quarter. That's why the railings and some of the architecture looks much more Spanish, if you know what you're looking at, than French. Conti Street itself was the extension of the French Quarter during the Spanish years, when room in the French Quarter was already too full and bumping at the seams. Although today the lot spans nearly the entire block of Conti between Dauphine and Burgundy Streets, it was separate properties during the 19th century. which explains the different type of architecture inside. You got to go downhill in what they call a dugout to see the universal monsters and, of course, the one-eyed Cyclops. Welcome to 915 through 23 Concha Street, where the boys went to school and inheritances fought over and coffins were made. The Jefferson Academy. It was around the late 1820s when an all-boys school was founded on Bourbon Street. Named the Jefferson Academy, school did not last long on Bourbon Street for its move to Concha Street. While here, Jefferson Academy hired a man who continued to work at the school for a nearly 45-year tenure. His name was J.D. Lord, and from all accounts, he was a man of great personality. As historian James William Mobley remarked in the mid-20th century, Lord must have proved well liked within the school system, enough so they kept him around for almost 50 years. For the boys studied at primary school, education was quite similar to other education programs throughout New Orleans and southern Louisiana. They were taught English, history, French, writing, math, geography, and bookkeeping. Of course, bookkeeping, every business needed a bookkeeper. So they always needed bookkeepers, especially in the days before computers. Though if I had to harbor a guess, I'd imagine their favorite subject was fencing. After all, New Orleans during the 19th century had more duels occurring on a daily basis than anywhere else in the world. Fencing was a gentleman's sport, dueling a gentleman's necessity, improving his honor. Jefferson Academy ultimately closed its door in the late 1880s, although it's safe to say that perhaps some of those children's spirits have chosen never to leave. And yes, you do catch a lot of young men's voices in there. The battle for 915 Concha Street. It was 1833 when the Concorsian Silverde Bassini, migrated to New Orleans. At only 25, Bassini fancied himself a sailor, where adventures could be had at every turn. Not ready to be tied down, Bassini sailed for Mexico. There he met Isabella, the woman who would become his wife, or his concubine, depending on who you ask. Wife? No wife. Was it officiated, or was it just, we lived together for a while, forget it? And Silverter and Isabella returned to New Orleans. She established himself as a keeper of an oyster saloon and coffee house at the site where the Muskie Concha exists presently, or did. That's where high-end condos exist now. So it used to be an oyster saloon and a coffee house. Problems started early on, though Bassini and Isabella claimed to be married. Neighbors in the area thought differently. Some neighbors came forth to argue that Bassini was violent toward Isabella, his alleged Mexican concubine, striking her and making her cry. Others whispered that Bassini refused to let anyone speak ill of Isabella, or they risked meeting his angry fist. And yet other neighbors remarked that upon visiting the Bassini household, they almost always found Isabella in tears. He will not claim me as his wife, Isabella would tearfully moan as she curled in a ball in the corner of the room. When Isabella died in 1848, Bassini remarried 3 months to Emily Charlotte de Gilly, with whom he would beget one son, Sylvester Jr. By the time of his death in 1880, two families merged by the Bassini's second marriage were tearing at each other's throats. Bassini removed the children from his first marriage from his will on account of them being bad boys and causing trouble in the neighborhood. Troublesome mess continued all the way to the district court, where the judge ruled that it was unlikely that Bassini had beaten Isabella, although it was never proven one way or the other. Sylvester Jr. received the house at 915 Concha Street in the final settlement and continued to live on the property until 1890. However, had Bassini beat Isabella, his first wife? Was she only his concubine? The secret will remain closed forever. And that's just some of the drama you deal with. I found in my studies of New Orleans and up at Chicago that it's not just death or suicides or it, in that creates hauntings. It can be drama, drama in your marriage, drama in your wife. Well, of course, the wives always cause drama in your life. Hope my wife's not listening. Be drama here, but there is drama in the afterlife as well. In the late 19th century, the building operated as a coffin factory. During this era, coffin factories were a dime a dozen, but the one at 970 Conti may have been the largest. But perhaps the most known factory on Contra Street was the Sweetwater Company, located at 950 Conti, the same plot of land that the Bassini family had once lived. At the Sweetwater Mill, garments were manufactured by more than 300 employees. One newspaper, the early 20th century, remarked that the Sweetwater Company is always looking at the interests of their employees. Wages were known to increase periodically, which must have pleased the workers. Work at a garment factory, despite Sweetwater's claim to be on the lookout for their employees, was incredibly hazardous. Workers were generally young children who were forced to work from sunup to sundown, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 6 days a week. Wages were abysmally low. Machine oil and the fabric itself were fire hazards, and unfortunately common for children to lose a finger or a limb in a futile fight with the factory machines. In 1911, New York City witnessed its worst ever garment factory fire, in which the Triangle Waste Factory caught in flames. 146 workers died within a span of 18 minutes. Sweetwater Garment Factory was no less dangerous. In 1920, the four-story building was consumed in flames in the dead of night. Employees arrived in the morning for a full day ahead of them, only to find that the structure was crumbling before their very eyes. It's unclear whether anyone died in the fire at the Sweetwater Garment Factory, but the manufacturing company never returned. As for its employees, it's difficult to say whether these young children felt a measure of relief of having escaped the possible fate of death or worried that without a position, poverty would be their only fate. Regal is, as Regal does. Less than a handful of years later, after the devastating fire of the Sweetwater factory, the buildings were rebuilt and became home to one of New Orleans' favorite breweries. The American Brewing Company had opened its doors for business in the late 1800s, but purchased a French Quarter winery in 1890. Soon enough, the brewing company needed more space and eventually bought a nearly block-wide building on Bourbon, Lineville, and Conti Streets. Production halted during the Prohibition years, in which the name was altered to the American Beverage Company. The American Beverage Brewing Company was one of only 4 breweries in the city to survive the years of probation. But by the way, there was an incident. There was somebody investigated from the National Office of where that he could go to any major city and within just a few minutes have a drink in his hand. The record is New Orleans, of course, New Orleans. Chicago was up there too in the top 5. Scored New Orleans, beat him out. He got in a cab, take me to someplace where I can find a drink, and the taxi cab driver handed him a drink. It holds a record. He was down there looking for a drink to report back to what cities should be searched for illegal sales of alcohol, and the taxi driver hands him a drink. Oh boy. It was one of only 4 breweries cities to survive the years of Prohibition. After 1933, the company moved to the block of 915 Conti and went back to what it was doing best, brewing beer, including the city's favorite stuff, Regal beer. They advertise it like red beans and rice and Regal on ice. It's no surprise that New Orleans flocked to the product like a newborn to its mama's milk. Another ad showcased a prince holding up a beer with a catchphrase, Prince Regal, salute you. Although the company closed in 1962, oil markings from hauling beer to the second floor still mar the elevator of the Muskie Conte, which is alleged the largest and oldest freight elevator in the entire French Quarter. We will be showing you a video of that elevator because I was there. I investigated there for about an hour and a half, 2 hours on that ancient elevator. The Muskie Conte Wax Museum. When Benjamin Well and Isidore Lasaris visited Madame Tussauds in London during the 1960s, they immediately wondered why New Orleans didn't have something similar. I believe I said this with the last reading. Instead of celebrity figures, they wanted to tell the city of New Orleans. So they hired the mannequin manufacturer from Paris and ordered clothing specially made from Europe. The wax figures arrived, but on praying in flight. I've already covered that. The Muscogee Wax Museum became the only historically minded wax museum and still is till its closing in 2016. Alex, the museum's manager and employee of 5 years of Muskie Conte, elicits fond memories. When Michael Jackson's wax figure was destroyed during the Haunted Dungeon's construction during the 1980s, only his head survived the tragic event. It was initially placed in Frankenstein's cabinet, but after it was nearly stolen twice, it was removed from Frankenstein's possession. Today, Michael Jackson's head can be found in Alex's office, along with Count Dracula's hand and one single figure of Andrew Jackson. I may have been too nervous to ask where the rest of General Jackson's 4 fingers were, and I imagine that Alex kept those, as knowing him, that was probably found the way to his house, and he still has them under lock and key. Up until the time the museum was sold in July 2015, after 2 years in the market, staff still liked to play games with each other after hours. When only employees remained, they hid in the aisles among the wax figures with their human hair and glass eyes and leaped out at unsuspecting co-workers. Thank goodness nobody did that to me when the lights are off. In addition to the creepy factor that wax folks themselves, visitors to the museum have reported hauntings. What else might be lurking at the historical landmark? I can kind of tell you my experiences there. Because of the often diverse and dark backgrounds, it should come as no surprise that the Muskie Wax Conte Museum, or I think that's a miswriting, Muscogee Conte Wax Museum, is haunted. Guests have been remarked upon seeing something similar or someone out of the corner of their eyes. Bones were discovered in the outer walls of the haunted dungeon only 3 years ago. Coroner's caught up and management never heard back. They do hope they were animal bones, however. They were never told. Probably there was a dead dog or something buried there. What else may be lurking in this historical landmark? What are the secrets or stories or forever untold once this legendary closes this door so good and they dig up everything but the facade and put expensive condos? They'll probably never let me in that building for another investigation. Probably couldn't afford to go up to the front desk and ask the time of day. It is good, fortunately, a paranormal team had the opportunity to conduct an overnight investigation. What they found? Well, even the largest skeptics might feel chills race down their spine at these stories. And some of this is what I found. This was written after my investigation. And I turned a skeptic into a believer during the elevator investigation. So some of this is me. Upon standing in the area of the museum called the French Opera House, paranormal team immediately heard the disembodied voice of a man welcoming them. The spirit's hi was a distinct EVP. So startling in its clarity, the team immediately looked over their shoulders to check if somebody followed them in. No one had. Moments later, another voice was heard. He invited them to just turn around here. And it was then the paranormal investigators began to question whether or not the ghosts were welcoming them or whether the phenomenon was strictly residual energy. That's a question that will never be answered. Then the ghost of residual energy can be best explained by thinking of a recording, which is something repeated again and again. The spirits themselves are locked within that time frame or event where interactions between the living and the dead were almost impossible to secure. Where the disembodied voices in the French Opera House exhibit simply gone to playback, harking back to the days gone by when the property was a brewery in the 20th century or even a coffee house during the 19th. Almost directly next to where the voices were caught is the French Quarter's oldest freight elevator. It's entirely possible that the spirit has been giving instruction as to where to put the new deliveries for decades now. Only another investigation might clear up the confusion, and they got enough to have another hunt, which I was on. The shadows which haunt the museum. Paranormal hauntings generally stray activity toward activity has been caught through electromagnetic equipment. Strange voices are heard or the heavy footfalls of shoes echo in the recording. Ghostly sightings that aren't the norm, but the Wax County Museum is anything but normal, or should I say was. On 3 different occasions during the course of the investigation, paranormal team witnessed dark figures sweeping past them. Tell me about that. The upstairs kitchen was the scene of the first sighting. 2 of the Ghost City teams watched in shock as a shadow moved toward the doorway. It waited there, so very clear to the eye, even as the investigators stood opposite the figure. Later, the team would describe the sensation as immobilizing, not because the dark shadow paralyzed them in any way, but because seeing an entity consciously block the only exit from the kitchen had struck them with utter disbelief. During the threatening presence faded, soon it faded, disappearing in the night with the 2-person team hightailed it out of the area. See, I didn't have the choice. I was locked in there for 2.5 hours by myself. I could run a half a mile and still be in the museum. At one point, to get to an unlocked door, the door closest to me was locked. I had to walk through every hallway and wind my way around to the exit door to get out. And all I was wanting to do is, where everybody was, and how do I go home? Do I have to call the police to come unlock the front door? But I found 2 people that were there, and they were up in the kitchen at a monitor playing video games, and they were above the museum or to the side of it, excuse me, and there I was locked in there by myself. But that one paranormal occurrence was not in the last. Upstairs in the great reception room, you saw that picture. The owner of the tours and the general manager found themselves waiting for any sign of paranormal life. They set up equipment in hope of connecting with the ghost of the Wax County Museum. If only they'd known what they know now. Moments later, the ghostly voice of a young girl came through, teasing them with both the chance to see her physical spirit. Do you want to see me? The owner and GM did, without doubt. Off of the main room, they decided to sit on a green sofa and wait for the spirit to appear. She did, her shadowy figure bouncing up between the sofa and an antique dresser like she played an otherworldly game of hide and seek. The experience was one of a kind, and though her form soon vanished, as though her ghost and gown had grown. Whoa, focus eyes. Through her ghost and gown, grown, tired, the paranormal investigators were thrilled at what they thought. Of course they were. Later, a young boy was spotted in the haunted dungeon. Yes, the young boy was hanging around me as I walked through several times through the haunted dungeon. I just got 1 or 2 videos there because in the darkness I could have filmed every time, but the videos were just long enough as it was. and I was by myself as far as a living human being goes, but I was never alone. Or perhaps these ghostly children, those who had worked in the Sweetheart Garment Factory before the fire destroyed it all. Or they perhaps the children of past owners of the property, like the Blasini family. Or perhaps the spirit boy seen in the dungeon was once a student who attended Jefferson Academy. That's why the place is absolutely filled with child spirits. Or was. I'm not sure I'd want to live in one of those condos because those condos are bound to be haunted. What remains most interesting about this entire overnight ghost hunt is that the paranormal investigation was held before historians researched the property. The ghost of shadow singing, the distant voice heard, the pieces have only been put in place after the event happened. For the return of the Wax County Museum for a public ghost hunting event, we're going to hope to uncover more about the spirits who haunt this museum. Until then, one question who will remain. Who is haunting the Must-See County? Answer: every damn body. There's adults there. There are children there. There are men. There are women. It is absolutely amazing. Like I said, I would not want to live in one of those condos because surely they did not, or those are for sale now. If you want to go down there and get a $700,000 plus condo, and you can go ghost hunting every night in your living room, I'm not sure I'd want that. But because that location, it's had too much go on. Of course, this is like every other major city. But New Orleans being one of the older cities, that's why New Orleans is more haunted than even Chicago, because Chicago hasn't had that much time. New Orleans was a great city before the first white man built a shack in New Orleans, before the first fort was built. They had a thriving city down in New Orleans. What I'm going to do now is show a video or two of the inside of the Wax Museum. If I can find it. I know they're in here. I could look up the word French. No, they're somewhere. Where is that video? In the meantime, while I'm looking for this, we're going to take a little break.
representation of Mardi Gras.
This is inside the museum itself. This is smaller figures. The buildings, of course, representative of what is now the French Quarter, was at the time downtown New Orleans. This is basically what I could see in this wax museum. This is a lot of what I saw right here. Total darkness.
Ever heard of the Audubon Society? Here's one, John James Audubon. Can't go to Louisiana without talking about Louis Long.
The voices in the background, other than mine, was the echo box that I had running constantly. This is wax figures depicting Mardi Gras. I'll show some of the signs that were there. If you want to pause the video, you can read them better. And I remember Huey Long. Jelly Roll Morton, self-proclaimed inventor of jazz, modern pop, modern rock, modern soul, all came from jazz in New Orleans. Was this the original inventor of all of our current music?
Blue Madison from years ago.
Here's some of the things I was saying. You may need to put a set of headphones on. Wolfman. It's Hunchback of Notre Dame. Or Notre Dame. Frankenstein. My name is Frankenstein. Alive! Alive! It's alive! Phantom of the Opera. And there they are, dipping the mannequins in wax. Or was it a mannequin? The Body Snatchers. You can kind of hear the spirits talking among themselves while I was out of earshot. Now, I believe this next video is going to take us to
Panel B.
This is the car elevator.
Do you enjoy Mardi Gras season?
Mardi Gras perfect. That's what I heard.
Ice cold. You should accept your death.
Are you standing between me and the other folks in here?
Why don't you accept your death?
Ed, are you standing right in front of me? What is it that you know? Do you know you're dead?
I can feel you, Ed. How did you die?
Are you happy here?
Ed, are they stopping you from making contact with us?
Ed, what is the afterlife like?
Cuatro, cinco. Somebody said 1, 2, 3 in Spanish.
You know, she's Honduran.
You speak Spanish, don't you?
A little bit.
Speak a little bit.
Hola. ¿Cómo está? Bien. ¿Y tú? Como se llama?
Como te llamas?
That's mujer.
Just counted to 3 in Spanish. I'm assuming somebody, a Spanish speaker, was counting us. That's a bit of a coincidence. They count with 3 and there's 3 of us in here. Okay, you know how many living people are in here? How many spirits are in here? 6. 9?
Nueve.
Is this yours? Maybe it's just something that belongs there. Okay, I'll switch back to Bank A.
What year is it?
There's at least 2 female speakers here. Can you give us your names, please? You don't have to be that rude. Pardon my French, if one of them says fuck off. And then she says, what? I said, you know what you said. Is it that difficult for you to give us your names?
Are you not allowed to say your name?
Okay, who's standing right in front of me again? Ed, thank you. Ed, why are you standing in front of me? Why are you not talking? Everybody's talking about you.
Somebody likes Nicole. Who is this?
Ed, if you're standing by Nicole, reach out and touch Nicole to let her know you're here. It was just told don't by a female spirit.
Who made her the boss, Ed?
Do you need help?
I got a no and a sorry.
Are you happy?
One guy said yes.
Did you know that they were turning this place into condominiums? This will no longer be the wax museum.
Yet he's correct. This will no longer be a wax museum as of the next week or so.
Will you stay here?
This building will be torn down except for the facade and be a 3-story condo. In the next 10 days, they're going to start. I don't know the name of the people who bought it.
You will have people living here.
Ed, are you right in front of me? Don't laugh at me. Joke.
What's your favorite sport, Ed?
Do you like jazz?
What is your favorite kind of music?
Jazz.
Do you remember Prohibition?
Male said yes, female said no. Your mom left? Where did your mom go?
I'm on it. You know.
Can you please identify yourself, the young lady who said, our mom left us?
How did she leave? my mom.
Ed, are you right in front of me again? Put your mail, move the K2 away. Put the K2, you can't have a mail in K2 in the same vicinity. You got a mail there, right? Since there's a temperature difference here.
Yeah.
Way back there. Who's standing behind you?
Art? You got automatic response, Art. Can Art say something, please? Apparently you hit a female spirit because they said ow.
Sorry.
Maybe that's like that. I think the disco ball is a nice touch in there. Are you trying to leave?
Okay, who is standing right in front of the doors to the elevator? There's a male and female spirit standing right in front of the doors. You must have hit her in the head with the K2.
I apologize.
He didn't mean to hit you.
Are you a couple? Do you know one another?
So the woman's name, is her name Pat or Patricia? Yes, her. So am I correct that Pat and Art are standing in front of the doors to the elevator?
Would you like me to open the door?
No.
I guess you're a ghost. You could just walk right through, huh?
Yep.
I always wondered, can ghosts fly?
Is there somebody named Al here? Okay, can somebody answer the question again? How many spirits are in this elevator right now? 12. The lady said ow again. I think I bumped into her. 12 again.
Okay. Who is Patricia or Pat?
Who is standing right here between all the humans? Who said they were dead? Okay, you notice my hat. Can you tell me what letter is on the front of my hat?
Are you blocking the door?
Somebody named Tim in here?
Can you get into a new body?
I wouldn't advise giving them ideas.
Is this building haunted?
Okay, nobody calls me by that name. That is my middle name. Please do not use it. Now, can you give me to the name of my ancestor who is here? Who is again standing here with the humans? Rick and Mark. There's one lady here with us. She has letters on her shirt. Can you give me the 3 letters?
You notice that I'm getting a lot of young boys' names. Remember, this place got from the garment factory
Okay,
and
don't tell me yet. Can you give me the letters?
the boys' school.
Right there. Man, so
Okay, you got the letters correct. Can you tell me the word that it says? You don't have to be rude to each other. Somebody said fuck you in one of the other spirits.
Notice her front of her
That's a strong signal. That's unusual.
like gap on her shirt. They spelled the letters G-A-P.
Can you please give us your names of the spirits standing here with the 3 people here? Male voice said his, which means he was giving somebody else's name. And one woman said no. See, words, names give us too much power. A lot of them are afraid to say, give us their name, because that means we can call them out. You know, whatever your name, you put your name here, you know, do this. What's your name? You know, do that. Who's standing in front of me again? Did either one of y'all just speak?
No.
I heard a voice that said, a ghost.
Maybe they moved.
look, they're not even around here anymore.
They moved. Are Art and Pat still here? No, okay. They left.
All right, we're going to hold it up right there. I'll be showing more of this investigation on Halloween. I'm not sure yet how long we'll play on Halloween, but I'm running an hour 38 tonight. That is plenty tonight for show number 5 on Sunday night. A little bit extra. You saw some interaction between 2 other investigators and myself by EchoVox in the old elevator. And you heard earlier how long the elevator had been around. You could see the black marks on the wall where in moving the raw materials up to the second floor for where the brewery was, and where they used to put the old Model T pickup trucks to load the beer up, had got sloshed. You see where they spilled some beer, probably broke some bottles, but hauling that stuff up and down on that car elevator. All right, we are going to get out of here tonight. I'll say have a good day. If you're listening live, there's one person listening live. If you're seeing this at another time, I appreciate you watching the show, whether you're watching on my Facebook page, the Norman profile, or the WLFEDB radio Facebook page, or if you're watching the CRPS Lynn Dorman channel on YouTube. Also, people may be listening on WLFEDB.com, which is the network's home page for the internet. Or, of course, I can't forget the people who may be watching this a year from now, or 6 months from now, or next week, or tomorrow, or Halloween, and are listening via podcast. The WLFEDB and Ted put this on all of the popular podcast channels to be archived and for people to pick up and listen to anytime, of course, on WLFEDB.com. All right, like I said, we're going to get out of here. We're going to exit with a little bit more organ music. I will be back tomorrow night, probably about the same time, between 10 and 1 somewhere, probably around 11 o'clock. Wait till all the shows are off, then I'll go live again. And I'm not sure what I'm going to feature and talk about, but I'll find something, a story to tell, some video to back up where I was. All right. Until then, about 21, 22 hours from now, have a great day. Have a great week. And happy Halloween. Yeah. Good night, everybody. Just remember, the paranormal never sleeps.